That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Wonka, the fourth film directed by Paul King, which Warner Brothers is releasing December 15th, 2023.
Do I know a Paul King film?
You do. Probably not his debut, 2009's Bunny in the Bull, but notably directed Paddington and Paddington 2.
Well, this film is based on the extraordinary character at the center of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Wonka tells the wondrous story of how the world's greatest inventor, magician, and chocolate maker became the beloved Willy Wonka we know today.
Except it does not do that at all.
Yeah, this premise is felonious because we don't learn how he makes magic candy. And the character we see in this movie, I do not believe turns into Gene Wilder or Johnny Depp. So, I don't know. But what's your pull quote?
A sappy, unkempt, and woefully incongruous origin story for Roald Dahl's villainous chocolatier, Wonka's strained sentimentality is fueled by empty calories.
Ooh. Okay, mine. If you were thinking you'd learn how Willy Wonka makes magical candy or why he likes to punish children, think again. I enjoyed this movie well enough. I think if it's in a bubble, like if a person doesn't know anything about Roald Dahl or the two previous films, then this could be fine, except that while I did enjoy it, this screenplay, the story, is so ridiculous.
I think it's caca. It was written by Simon Farnaby, who has worked with Paul King before. Notably, he also plays the zoo security man.
There are a lot of characters and performances that I did enjoy, and that's what kept me going for the nearly 2-hour running time. But yeah, this story, even trying to think how I would explain it, just gave me a headache. But here we go.
Do it.
So Timothée Chalamet plays Willy Wonka.
And of an indeterminate 20-something-year-old age, and in what year or place, I don't know.
I don't know if we're on Earth. I don't know what year it is. I don't know that he's even supposed to be in his 20s. But this young man, the beginning of the film, he hops off a boat singing about how he loves to make chocolate. But I understood that maybe it was like he was a Marine or something.
And he served his time, but his passion is chocolate, and he swirls onto the street, not unlike Mary Poppins.
And he has gone to a specific place, kind of like the Rodeo Drive of chocolatiers. And in particular, there are 3 chocolatiers who have their shops, and he wants to have his shop in that same common Galleria area. So he goes, he doesn't have any money.
He has several sovereigns that he wastes.
Yeah, the opening scene is him sort of like losing all of his money. But he is going to sleep on the street that night when some nefarious character approaches him and says, "Oh, I know someone who can help you. Follow me." And he's taken to this like laundry shop / hotel run by Olivia Colman.
Mrs. Scrubbit.
And she's like, "Oh, I can help you. We have the entrepreneur suite. It's only 1 sovereign a night. You can pay me tomorrow." And he's like, "No problem. I'm going to make a bunch of money tomorrow when I sell my chocolate." But while he's signing the ledger to check in, this little girl named Noodle tries to warn him.
Played by Calah Lane.
She's trying to tell him, like, read the fine print. And he sort of, like, looks at the contract and sees that really that one page is like 20 pages. But he peruses it and is like, "Oh, it's fine." He signs it. Goes to sell his chocolate, but the chocolatiers, 3 of whom, they're played by
Paterson Joseph, who's the kind of main baddie, Slugworth, Matt Lucas, and Mathew Baynton.
Slugworth is the main one. He calls the police on Willy Wonka the next morning while he's selling all his chocolate. So Willy Wonka made like a bucket of money, but the police confiscated. But the one police officer who Willy Wonka keeps running into, well, there are 2. The nice one says, "Well, rules are rules, but here, take a sovereign so you can pay for your hotel." So when Willy Wonka gets back, Olivia Colman's like, "Oh, no, girl, there are incidental charges, and you've racked up 10,000 sovereign worth of incidentals. Oh, you can't pay? Well, per this contract you signed, you have to, like, basically work in my sweatshop, like the laundry store, until you pay it off. And you only get paid a sovereign a day. So that means you're going to work for me for 27 years. So she throws his ass down to the basement, and we see there are 4 other people in a similar situation. One is an accountant, one is like a plumber, one's a comedian, and one is like a telephone operator. So
all indentured servants.
All indentured servants, and they've all been there for years. But Noodle, the little girl, has taken a liking to Willy Wonka. And he shares with her that he makes chocolate. One of the things I really liked in this movie is he has his little like travel factory, which I thought was really cute. He has this like suitcase that opens up, and that's where he makes all his little confections. He shares some with her, and she says, well, I'll help you. So he's like moonlighting, selling chocolate on the streets, but then the chocolatiers, like the villains, realize what he's doing. They employ the chief of police, played by Keegan-Michael Key, to basically kill Willy Wonka. But Willy Wonka's able to make enough money, and then his co-workers, the other indentured servants, agree to help him. And they make enough money that they're able to rent the one vacant store in this Rodeo Drive area. But Slugworth convinces Olivia Colman to poison all of his chocolate, which we need to talk about. So his dreams go up in smoke. But Slugworth says, well, I'll help you out. Because they know that his chocolate is superior, and if people really get a hold of it, they'll be out of business.
Because notably, them monopolizing the chocolate also means they dilute their own chocolate. They water it down and keep the actual hard stuff in the basement of this church.
That's a big subplot, that the three chocolatiers have their excess chocolate underneath this big church that's run by Mr. Bean.
Father Julius. Rowan Atkinson.
And we're told that he has 500 chocoholic monks who protect this chocolate, which I thought was funny. But they tell Willy Wonka, listen, if you promise to stop making chocolate and leave whatever place we're in right now, we'll pay your debt and all your little friends' debt so they can leave Olivia Colman's shop. And Willy Wonka agrees because he made a pinky promise or a pinky swear to Noodle saying that he would get her out. So Willy Wonka takes a one-way trip to the North Pole on a boat. But we find out that boat has an explosive on it because they were going to kill him. But he gets off the boat with the help of his Oompa Loompa.
Kind of with the help.
Played by Hugh Grant. And this Oompa Loompa has been following Willy Wonka for years because Willy Wonka stole some cocoa beans from him.
Well, he just took them off a tree. He didn't realize that.
We need to talk about how Willy Wonka gets these ingredients.
And how long they last.
But yes, and that too. But the Oompa Loompa, Hugh Grant says, Oompa Loompas believe that if you steal from them, you owe them 1,000-fold. And they will not stop until they collect their 1,000-fold.
So the major theme about this film is the inability to get out of debt.
Basically. But Willy Wonka gets off the boat. He goes and gets his friends out of Olivia Colman's place. And then they learn because one of the indentured servants who was an accountant,
Abacus,
he worked for Slugworth, and he learned that those fools keep a ledger of all the nefarious things they do. And if they can get a hold of that ledger and give it to the police, they can take down this entire operation.
Much like the Nazis, wrote down everything.
So Willy Wonka and Noodle do get the journal, but they get caught. And what does Slugworth do? Tries to kill them by drowning them in this surplus chocolate. Which made no sense.
Rotting bodies in the chocolate.
So you're going to contaminate your entire supply, which we're told after that is worth billions. I don't know what billions relate to in this world we are in, but it seems like it's a lot. But of course, Willy Wonka doesn't die. He's saved by Hugh Grant, the Oompa Loompa. The police get a hold of the ledger, so they take down the chocolatiers.
And the crooked Keegan-Michael Key.
And Willy Wonka and his friends release all of the chocolate to the people of this town.
In a fountain in the public square.
And then the final scene is Willy Wonka finds a castle. He buys it, and then we assume that's where he's going to make his chocolate factory. The end.
Well, and then Noodle.
There's so much of this movie. So Noodle, we find out that Noodle was wearing a little necklace that had the letter N on it, and that's why Olivia Colman named her Noodle. But Willy Wonka realizes halfway through that Slugworth, this rich chocolatier, we also learn as the audience that he's really trying to suppress Noodle for some reason. And we find out the reason is that's his niece. And her father,
who he may or may not have had a hand in dispatching.
His inheritance, the dad was rich, and if Noodle was around, she would have received the inheritance. So Slugworth wanted to make sure he got the money. So he got rid of Noodle. By basically, we see him throw this little baby into a laundry bag and throw it into the laundry chute. And that's how Olivia Colman ended up, like, I guess, taking care of her. Another subplot is Olivia Colman is sort of distracted so that Willy Wonka can go sell chocolate every day, because there's this like romance between her and her assistant.
Tom Davis playing Bleacher, because Olivia Colman, Mrs. Scrubbit is obsessed with aristocracy, and they fool her. The Noodle fools her into thinking that Tom Davis is a Bavarian prince.
And Willy Wonka fools that guy into thinking that he should dress like an aristocrat.
To woo Olivia Colman.
Which I did think was a funny part of the movie. But it just, we can just get to it. I just think that this story is, it almost has the vibe of like one of those adventure action films like Jumanji or The Jungle Cruise.
Oh, it felt so derivative in so many ways. This felt like Harry Potter meets The Greatest Showman. The early Dickensian elements. It's like Oliver Twist meets Paul Verhoeven's Katie Tipple. My first note about Timothée is, so he's just a big old illiterate fool.
Okay, so we learned that he's illiterate and that he doesn't really know much about anything except how to make magical, ornate confections.
Which he learned from his mother, played by the dead Sally Hawkins.
And he's a master engineer. But let's talk about his mother, because we learned that she died when he was a kid and that she could only afford like one cocoa bean a year. I don't even know, but he said it took many birthdays for her to collect enough cocoa beans that she could make him a tiny bar of chocolate. And then she tells him that, because he says, your chocolate's better than anyone's chocolate. But she tells him, no, there's this Rodeo Drive of chocolatiers. They're probably better. And he goes, no, there's no way. And she says, well, I do know the secret to making great chocolate. Well, what is it? Well, I'm not going to tell you till you get older. Mm-hmm. And then she makes him this bar of chocolate when he's a little boy.
That he's carried for years.
That he's carried for years. Mm-hmm. And at the very end of the film, because he decides to open the chocolate and we see that there's a golden ticket inside and she's written what the secret is. And then he breaks up the chocolate to give to all his friends. So my first thought was, does chocolate not expire? Because he's had this bar in his little dirty knapsack for years.
It does.
It's surely going to make them all sick.
Yeah.
But also, the quote that the mother writes on the chocolate, the golden ticket, says, the secret is not the chocolate, but the people you share it with. And I was like, now wait a damn minute.
No.
Are we going to learn how this chocolate is magic? How did he learn how to make magic chocolate when his mama's talking about just be a generous person?
He legit is using magic. But then the other inane thing is that he believes that the specter of his mother will appear when he successfully opens his magic chocolate shop, which of course, as you can predict, does happen.
We need to say that again. He believes that his dead mother will reappear if he actually opens a chocolate shop. He creates magical things, but it's never explained how.
But can't read.
Can't read. They have only enough money to rent this dilapidated shop that they make into the chocolate store, and he uses magic to make the shop. He uses magic at the end to make the factory in the castle. But he couldn't get his ass out of the laundry department at the hotel.
Right, but yet creates this contraption to use Olivia Colman's dog.
A very elaborately engineered contraption to do everyone's work in the sweatshop
for them, but can't kind of get out from.
But can't get out of the sweatshop. It just is so crazy.
It's just so vacant and void in so many ways. He opens this magical, to me, very CGI-looking shop, and it's just miraculously open. And we can talk about the poisoning of the candy, but that shit gets ruined in less than an hour of being open, and it's burned down by these raggedy-ass patrons. And all I could think was like, good, let this ugly CGI burn.
I didn't think it was ugly. I actually thought it looked quite nice. Because I don't mind when things that are not real look fake. Like, there is no such thing as cotton candy clouds. So then the fact that what is real to something that doesn't exist, I understand what you mean, but I liked how the movie looked.
If it had correctly calibrated the emotionality of these people, we would have had a feeling to see that his dreams are burning down before his very eyes. But it's nothing. It's fluff.
I think you're more upset about the movie than I am. I enjoyed it. I just think the story is ridiculously dumb.
Yes.
But I thought Timothée was really cute as Willy Wonka.
I thought he was spastic and trying very hard, and he gave off the vibe of somebody that I would actively avoid.
I don't agree. But
I did not like him.
But I think if you reference Gene Wilder and Johnny Depp, and you're told this movie's about a young version of those two people, I was expecting someone smarter and more insidious.
Self-discerning.
Well, yeah, and so the fact that he's like this affable dum-dum is strange to me.
I haven't read the book since 92, and it's not my favorite Roald Dahl book, but Dahl notoriously did not like children, especially spoiled children, and Wonka is kind of a cipher for Dahl's personality himself. So when you watch Gene Wilder or Johnny Depp in that terrible Tim Burton remake, he's a villain that is really using sugar, chocolate, to poison children, is how I see it.
I feel like I was expecting this movie to be dark, but then when I saw the trailer and I saw Timothée, I feel like, oh, it's going to be like a feel-good type movie, and that felt odd to me because we just watched the other two movies like a few days ago. So those were really on my mind.
Yeah. At what point does he get tired of children and start hating them and want to fool them into going through this treacherous
Because in this
odyssey?
movie, he gives up his dream to help a child.
Right.
And I didn't get the sense that he's bitter towards her because he ends up satisfying his dream tenfold. Because instead of having this little store in this area they don't want him in, he has this huge castle.
But also, isn't he magic? What if it's so hard to do it there? Can't you go to any major metropolis?
That's my other question. Why did it need to be this little stupid place where they don't want him because when he starts selling his chocolate, I thought those scenes worked really well. I like the music where he's showing like his magical chocolate. Literally, people are instantly like smitten, like they want it. So couldn't he have gone anywhere? Why did it have to be this place where they're trying to kill him?
I don't know.
Let me go through these notes. I only have a few. His little travel factory was really cute, and when he first opens it, he has like some hand sanitizer in it. That made me laugh. The candy that he makes, so there are a few versions. One version, when you eat it, it makes people fly, magic. The one that made me laugh the most is he has one called the Big Night Out, and that's when he requires giraffe milk to make a certain type of chocolate. So they have to like break into the zoo.
And milk a giraffe named Abigail.
Which was a cute scene, but then, so let's talk about the ingredients. I was really thinking, because Willy Wonka talks about how, I get giraffe's milk from here and vanilla beans from over on this side of the world. And he's traveled all over the world to get these ingredients that he has. Where does he keep them? He has a magical hat that he pulls stuff out of, so maybe it's in there. But then at the point where he says, I need milk, and little Noodle goes, oh, problem solved, there's milk right here, like on someone's doorstep. And she grabs the glass pint. And he goes, oh, no, we don't steal. But it's like, where are you getting all these other ingredients from?
Well, he stole from the Oompa Loompas. Also, he chastises this little girl for trying to take this milk that's sitting out on the stoop. When then they're at the zoo, he takes all the balloons.
Like hundreds of balloons.
Hundreds of balloons.
He just takes them and releases them because he's doing a song.
That's stealing.
It doesn't make any sense. His logic, which I guess you could argue does make sense because he's supposed to be chaotic. But Willy Wonka Timothée's version of this was not chaotic in a way that would lead me to think that he would turn into this demented person. He just seems like a dumb dog who can do really neat tricks.
That has no self-preservation is not in his lexicon. Right?
So another chocolate he makes causes people to grow hair, and we see a little Sphinx cat that becomes like a hairy cat. Okay, we didn't talk about Keegan-Michael Key. So he's the chief of police who's he has a song about having a sweet tooth, and he's obsessed with the chocolate, and the three chocolatiers basically have him under their thumb, and they pay him in chocolate. So they pay him a bunch of chocolate to kill Willy Wonka, and we see him get fat. And I didn't think that character was funny. I didn't think the fat jokes were funny.
No. Also, they treat chocolate as
Currency.
It's almost a currency, but almost it might as well be the opioid crisis with.
But even that could have been funny in a dark way. But
Right.
it's not. It's only really Keegan-Michael Key's character who can't control his chocolate intake.
But then also somebody like that that's addicted to this watered down chocolate does taste Wonka's chocolate. Wouldn't he lose his mind? Like pure unadulterated cocaine?
That's a good point too. Okay, so when Willie opens his chocolate factory and then it gets sabotaged because Olivia poisoned it, it's because Slugworth goes to her and says, like, this is what's going on. We need to stop him. What did she poison his chocolate with? Because everyone who's eating it starts turning colors. And what did she have access to that she I feel like that needed to be explained.
Yes, I don't know where, because Wonka right away is like, oh, it's Yeti semen or whatever. And yeah, wouldn't she have gotten wouldn't she have gotten that from his cabinet of
Right.
curiosities?
How would she even know what that was? And how did she... He has so much candy in that shop. What did she contaminate? I just think that is like obscenely ridiculous that it's not explained. How in the world did she affect his magic?
Mm-hmm. Although, I mean, and I like Olivia Colman a lot, and she's entertaining in this, but it's one note. It's like it's a one-dimensional carbon copy of Fagin from Oliver Twist.
I don't have any other notes. I was left confused at the end. Like, we don't ever learn how he does magic, and then he demonstrates magical powers, but then can't do the most simple thing, like get out of the basement of the laundry shop. Mm-hmm. That really bothered me. And then just not really seeing how this character turned into this sort of demented, child-hating person. The movie's not dark, really.
No.
But there are cute moments. I do think it looks cool. I did like Timothée as Willy Wonka.
Oh, Chung Chung-hoon was the cinematographer who's often worked with Park Chan-wook.
I thought the little girl playing Noodle,
Calah Lane.
I liked her.
Who's in The Day Shall Come.
I liked her because she was very smart, and a lot of times she would look at Willy Wonka like, you are so dumb. And I thought that was funny. Also, while I didn't think any of the other indentured servants were that interesting.
Including poor Natasha Rothwell.
I know, they didn't have much to do, but I did think the one who's trying to be a stand-up comedian, I thought he was funny.
Rich Fulcher, whose talent is talking like he's
He
underwater.
can talk like he's underwater. That did make me laugh every time he did it.
He's mildly amusing. I could have used a little more Rowan Atkinson. The giraffe moments made it feel a little like Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Dolittle to me. Hugh Grant's amusing.
His dancing, I thought, was really cute.
He's cute. I don't know. It feels very... The Oompa Loompa segment subplot feels very much like an afterthought. Like we have to get that in there. So I don't... It felt like extra. Like that could have been trimmed completely.
I could see like younger kids, like a kid liking this movie. I would watch it again on an airplane.
I probably won't ever watch this again. Paterson Joseph, though, as the main villain, he's
really good.
He's
too.
very OTT in a fun way.
Yes.
But
he's more of a villain. I mean, yeah. Anyway, he's the energy that I expected Willy Wonka to have.
Matt Lucas dressed like Hitler.
I didn't like him.
I didn't like him either. But and the other guy who vomits when he hears the word poor because he hates that demographic. But I find it funny that they circumvent the essence of Roald Dahl, who I think would be rolling in his grave at something like this. I mean, he didn't like the Gene Wilder version. That's why he wrote a sequel that he never let the rights...
Gave up the rights
for that, which is why we've never seen it. But it's funny what they do try to incorporate, and the subplot about Noodle being this relative of Slugworth's, which is very also a Little Princess with Shirley Temple.
I was getting Little Princess vibes, yeah.
But that is also a ripoff of Roald Dahl's Matilda, which, remember, the principal is related to the sweet
That's right.
teacher. I don't know.
What would you give Wonka?
2.
I would give Wonka 2.5 out of 5. It was okay. If you're in the right state of mind and you've never heard of Roald Dahl or seen the other movies.
I'm a Grinch, I'm a Scrooge, call me whatever you want. I did not care for this film.
All done?
Yeah.
Hit the thanks button, listen to our podcast. Bye.